Welcome to the Communication Diva Podcast, episode 101. Today on the podcast, the Communication Diva addresses the question of navigating political conversations while at work. And now, just 2 days after the 2016 U.S. presidential election, here's Jen Swanson on the subject of talking politics, 'cause no one's tired of that yet.
Hey, welcome to the Communication Diva Podcast. This is episode 101. And this is the podcast where I help you to get the job, love your work, and advance your career through better communication. I'm Jen Swanson, and I'm glad you're here. I'm really tired, and I bet you are too. This has been quite a week, and although I'm here in Canada, the world is a small place, and I truly believe we are all connected on this spinning globe, and so what happens in one place has reverberations in other places. And I can safely say that these reverberations have left more than a few people spinning. I want to talk today about navigating political differences in the workplace because you might be dealing with that right now, and you might be dealing with that, in times to come. How can you stay professional and on topic in the workplace when you find out that you might be working with one or more colleagues who have fundamentally different political viewpoints? And it's going to happen. We all come at life from different experiences, different belief systems, different family systems. We come from different places, and we have values that are dear to us and that often don't exactly match those of the people that we work with, or at least some of the time that's true. When we discover during the course of a world event such as an election like we just had this week, or even situations like a war, when we discover that we are in direct conflict with the values and beliefs of others around us, emotions can flare, and it can be more than challenging to stay focused on the job. So here are a few things to keep in mind. I want to dive into about 10 specific points, but before that, I just want to say a couple of things. I'm not sure who said this first, but there's a saying that goes like this. Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. So life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. And I think that's true. All behavior makes sense, especially to the person doing it. And so, we wonder often why people are behaving the way they behave. And I know that's true. I've been wondering why people have been behaving the way they've been behaving, and I'm sure you have too. And that behavior doesn't make sense to me, but it makes sense to the people who are doing it. And that's so true. That's a universal situation. We like to believe that there are universal right and wrong ways to think and to behave. And the thing is that that isn't true. Ethics are relative. Now, so I want to expand on that just a tiny bit. I want to talk about the fact that I don't actually like the word tolerance because I think it misses the point. I prefer far more to use the word acceptance. Tolerance to me sounds like you're just putting up with something that you don't like. And while that could be true, I would like to think that I can try to get to a place of acceptance. Now, sometimes that's not possible, but the word tolerance, I think, misses the point. I far prefer the word acceptance, but then I'm coming at this from the viewpoint of a progressive Christian, something I don't name very often in this show because I'm not focused on that in the show. But tolerating someone, and believe me, I have had the experience of having to tolerate somebody that I found extremely difficult to be around. But tolerating isn't actually good enough. So whenever possible, I vote for acceptance. Acceptance of the differences there are between people. Acceptance that we have all lived these different experiences. We all have different histories, different backgrounds, different cultures, different belief systems, and yes, often different political views. And accepting that we have differences doesn't mean we have to agree with each other. Accepting that we have differences is not the same thing as meaning we have to agree with one another. Accepting differences also doesn't mean that we don't stand firm in our own convictions and stand up for inappropriate places for what we fundamentally believe is right. But the workplace might not be that place, right? The workplace is probably not the place to have a big, loud shouting match. If you want to keep your job, it's probably not wise. So, to that end, some workplaces, some companies and organizations have actually got policies on what kinds of conversations employees can have on the clock, so to speak, as well as, what kinds of things you're allowed to bring with you, what kinds of political, what shall we say, accoutrement, buttons, hats, t-shirts, signs, slogans, what kinds of things you're allowed to have on your desk or, on your lunch bag or whatever, what things you're allowed to display. And you might think, well, that impinges upon my freedom of speech. But employers are allowed to set policies and guidelines while they are paying you. And you are expected, if there is such a policy in place, to respect that. And I don't think that these policies are meant to stifle your freedom of speech or your conversation, but they are to help reduce conflict and to let the steam out a little bit of what might be, in many cases, a tense situation, because you want to give everyone a safe place in which to go to work. So the policies, I think, can be a good thing. Workplaces, they can't ban conversation, but they can enforce rules to make the environment more comfortable for everybody. It wouldn't be fun to go into work wondering who you're going to battle with about your politics each day. There is a delicate balance between freedom of speech and harassment and outright bullying, you know, and so I think the policies that are in place are there to help keep everybody safe, put some rules in place, and if people want to talk about their views after work, then that's something else. But during the work time, in the workspace, I think it's well within the right of the company to do that. Of course, if somebody else is acting unethically in the workplace and there is harassment or bullying, then and you see it, then you need to act immediately. Sometimes the best thing to do is to speak to that person one to one in a calm way. And they might actually not be aware of how they're making people around them feel with what they're doing or what they're saying or what they're carrying with them, as far as their politics go. So, if you try and speak to the person in a calm way, using your I language, or in other words, speaking for yourself and for how you're experiencing the situation, that would be good. You might not be able to do that. You might not feel you're able to do that. But if you can, that would be the best place to start, is actually just having a calm conversation with the person about it. Avoid retaliation or revenge, because if you do that, then you're being unethical yourself. You might need to go to a supervisor or to a human resources department or to a union if you have one, if speaking to the person doesn't work for you or doesn't feel comfortable for you. But for the normal non-extreme situations, there are 10 points that I wanted to share with you today about how you can get through dealing with politics in the workplace and getting on with your work that you're being paid to do. So here they are. The first one is practice respect. You might not respect the other person's political views, but you can be respectful of the other person as a member of the human race who is struggling just like the rest of us to make sense of life and to live and to work and to succeed. And there are times when I don't like somebody very much, but I can pretty much always be respectful of them, even though I don't like them and maybe don't like what they stand for. But I can still be respectful to them. The second thing is to be kind. Politics and religion are hot button topics that are extremely difficult to avoid. And so if they do come up, try to approach the other person from a place of kindness and maybe even a place of compassion. Number 3, find common ground. Figure out what unites you. If you know that you're going to get into a conflict, maybe you can try and find something that you both care about to focus on instead. Maybe find something that is even related to politics to talk about. A baseball game or a hockey game or, something else that you both enjoy, a good recipe, whatever, something else you can talk about. Shift the focus away and find some common ground, something that you both enjoy together that you can talk about. Number 4 is get to know the other person a little bit better. That will help you to understand better where they are coming from. If you find out a little bit about where they grew up and what kind of situation they are in, if they feel like sharing, have a coffee with the person and just have a get to know you conversation, and maybe you'll understand a little bit more why they have the views that they have that maybe you don't share. Number 5 is consider the cost. If you really want to get into a heated debate, consider the cost. Is it really worth ruining a good working relationship or even a friendship with this person over a difference in political views or political affiliations? So consider the cost. Number 6, practice deep listening. If the relationship is worth it, take time maybe on a lunch break or a coffee break to really listen to the other person's viewpoint. Ask open-ended questions like what makes you the most worried or what are you hoping for? And don't forget to paraphrase or repeat back what they said to you in your own words so that you can make sure you're understanding and so that you can clarify and so that they feel understood. So deep listening, and you might not have time on a coffee break to do that. It might mean going out for a beer after work or something, but take time to understand the other person with deep listening. Number 7 is be ready to focus back on your work. Emotions tend to come easily into play when people are passionate about something. And if you find yourself getting emotional, getting too upset, be ready to focus back on the task at hand. Oh, I've got to change that toner in the photocopier, or, I see somebody coming in, I'm going to go and offer them some help, something like that. Focus back on your work if you notice in your own self that you're getting emotional about a topic. Number 8 is try not to tell the other person they are wrong or to change their viewpoint, because probably you can't, at least not in the space of a work conversation. Political beliefs run deep, as we know, and are deeply enmeshed with values, upbringing, life experiences, as I've said before. So everyone is entitled to an opinion, and if it becomes evident that you can't find common ground, it would be better to agree to disagree. That's kind of cliche, but to agree to disagree and to be respectful while you're doing it. You're not going to change the other person's viewpoint right then and there. And it isn't respectful to try and do so. Everybody is entitled to their own opinions. So perhaps try to focus back on work if you find that you're going to get into a match about that. The next one, number 9, is avoid sharing what you or what you think the other person believes on social media. Social media, there's just so much ugliness, so much toxicity on social media right now. It's really disheartening. And it makes me really sad. It makes me really sad when I see what people are willing to say when they're not face to face, when they're hiding behind that screen or that keyboard. It's really frightening, actually, in some cases. So avoid going on to social media in the workplace, and definitely avoid talking about what your coworkers think on social media. That could be a dangerous territory for sure. And the last one, number 10, is when you do disagree and when you walk away and maybe agree not to talk politics and get back to work, are you able to remember what you appreciate about the other person or what you're grateful for about that coworker? Things that have nothing to do with their political views. Are they a really good parent? Do they do excellent work in their job? Do they have a really good sense of humor? Do they have a gentle way with clients or patients or customers? If a rift has occurred between you because of a conversation you've had around your political views, you might be able to say something like, I know we don't agree on everything, but I wanted to tell you I appreciate what a good nurse you are. Something like that to start the healing. Because, while you might not agree, and maybe you will, there might be times when you fully agree. But what I'm talking about here is when you don't agree, when you have differing views. Maybe there are other ways in which you can come together, over those donuts, over a box of donuts, over a good laugh, over a good joke, over something else, and try to appreciate that person and why you enjoy working with them in the first place. We're so good at blaming and at focusing on what divides us, on labeling each other and judging. And don't get me wrong, because there are times to stand up and shriek with all your might at the injustices of the world. There are times to stand strong in what you believe and to put your time and energy and your passion into making this world a better place. Absolutely. That is how humanity progresses. But most of the time, the workplace is not the place to do that, unless what the politics is about is your workplace. Most of the time, what's needed more than anything else is a sense of collegiality, is some unity, even a peaceful, fun work environment, a good cup of coffee, a good, like I said, a good box of donuts, a pat on the back for a job well done, an open heart, and a helping hand. And that's what I wish for you right now. That's what I wish for you all right now, is to be able to find that safe space where you can come together with people that you work with and continue professionally in your job, do a good job, be proud of the work that you do, and be able to have some space right now and a little bit of peace. So if you found this helpful, I'd love you to go over to iTunes, find the Communication Diva podcast, and leave a rating on iTunes. That way more people will be able to find the show and will be able to come and listen and learn and contribute. So I hope that you can do that. Come on over to communicationdiva.com, leave a comment, share this with a friend, or even better yet, with one of your coworkers. And I hope that this has been useful to you. Until next time, this is Jen Swanson with the Communication Diva podcast. Peace be with you.